we're gonna do a video with audio commentary this time, because this is one of the hardest kicks in the groin a fan of NIGHTREIGN could ever experience. Deep of Night was announced to be a hard mode version of the game, where experienced players will be able to not only test their skills against the beefed up enemies and bosses, but to also optimize their character builds, with new relics granting new powers and quirks. In addition to that, there is now a risk and a reward system for using certain relics and weapons. While NIGHTREIGN has always had a huge emphasis on luck, skill was still the ultimate factor in whether or not you will be able to emerge victorious against the Night Lords, for most of them anyway. Of course, when you are a co-op enjoyer like myself, luck is also a factor for what kind of people you get teamed up with, if you only play with the randoms. I think we have all been carried by the other two people when we first played the game. At least if you were like me and jumped into the game a long while after its launch. Anyways, even if we lost because of deadweight noobs, we still got stuff for it. Merc and relics, which could be used to further enhance our characters for future expeditions, as well as accumulated experience while fighting the Night Lords. Kind of assuming you already had plenty of experience from ELDEN Ring, with the Night Lords being the only new enemies you had to learn and master. Just stick to it until the end and we're all having fun, right? Why isn't that the case for Deep of Night? Because they introduced the genius idea of having a ranking system for a game which is exclusively cooperative. But make no mistake, this isn't merely a system for tracking points. If you wish to experience and test yourself against even harder enemies and bosses, you need to collect a certain amount of points to climb up the ranks. And this mode doesn't mess around. If you want points, the Night Lord needs to go down. Sounds just about fair for a hard mode, right? So, what is it that makes it unfair and broken? It's for the one and simple fact you can lose points and even get demoted to a lower rank and difficulty. Simply put, if you do not perform well enough, or if you get a penalty for, like, leaving the game early, your points will drop. Even losing against the Night Lord can make your points drop, despite investing around 40 minutes reaching the big bastard. In other words, if you play co-op exclusively, you are even more reliant on people knowing what they're doing. You're also reliant on both teammates not rage quitting if you simply do not find it worth your time playing up to 40 minutes alone. But even if you are the last player leaving a co-op session, because the other two people obviously have no intention to try and reconnect and rejoin, you still get a penalty which will negatively affect your points later on. And let me tell you, despite making it to level 3 in Deep of Night, there is somehow a significant chance you will get teamed up with 2 noobs or rage quitters. Like, when you watch how horribly reckless, greedy and inept they are, you really gotta wonder how they made it that far, and how they are still at such a high death level, and not kicked back down to either level 2 or 1. In short, it's not so much of a question whether or not you will gain points depending on your teammates, it's just the opposite for me. I have more so been hoping to not lose points whenever I go on an expedition. Now, let me show you what finally steered me away from Deep of Night and why I won't be coming back to it until the system has been fixed. Look at this right here. I finally made it to level 4, but it only took a string of noobs, rage quitters and hackers for me to get kicked all the way back down to this point at level 3. Hours spent grinding, and it was all for nothing. There is a simple solution to this whole mess of a system. Simply abolish the deduction in points, at least for multiplayer. Like, compare these two instances. One of the players in a ranked fighting game drops the match, he loses points, and the other gains an easy win. Whereas, deliberate or not, one of the players dropping or ruining the session in Deep of Night, and everyone gets dragged down. Not merely being forced to a standstill, but having well-earned victories ripped away from us. In other words, you can lose progress because you were unlucky enough to get teamed up with people who are actually dedicated to ruining expeditions in this fashion. On that note, Deep of Night is only the hard mode if you can manage playing alone. Otherwise, it is simply not for people who don't have friends to play with. I'd go as far as to say the whole thing is false advertisement, and that doesn't feel good at all. Now I wish the Deep of Night never came, because it made me truly feel I've been wasting my goddamn time. It's not fun losing, but this just sucks. Even if I were to play the game in normal mode, it will still feel off. Like Deep of Night will constantly be teasing me, inviting me, probing me to potentially experience something new instead of the same old these past couple of months. You know, writing this script made me sort of realize something. Before Deep of Night got released, I played certain Everdark bosses over and over again, because I wanted to become skilled enough to carry the whole team if necessary. I cared about being a team player and bringing victory to not just myself, but to people who perhaps had yet to win against these bosses. Deep of Night has apparently ruined that for me. Yes, I am trying to cooperate to the best of my abilities, but it is all for selfish gains. I do not care about the points of other people. I only care about mine. I mean, damn.